Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Health Evolution Collective. Today, I'm here with the lovely, the incredibly smart and talented Steph Fowler. Thank you so much for joining me today, Steph.
Thanks for having me, Tracy. I always get a bit of a self-conscious giggle up when people introduce me. You're like, oh, no, that's not me. Shucks.
Well, it's so is you. I love it. I love it. Started great. It's so is you, and so that others can get a sense of, the knowledge and the journey you've been on. Do you want to start with telling everyone a little bit about, maybe what it is you do first of all, and then how we kind of came into contact with each other?
Yeah, so I kind of think of myself as a bit of a jack of all trades when it comes to research, essentially. So by trade, I'm a meat scientist, and then that's led me down a bit of a rabbit warren as well. But I come from an agricultural background, livestock farming and producing food from animals, basically, and a lot of technologies to do carcass assessment. So that's what I do as a sort of a 9 to 5 at the moment. But I've been down the path, which is how we got in touch, of low carb, losing weight. I had a few health issues. And then as a result of that, I've kind of had this kind of cataclysmic collide of everything, and I've gone down the path of a Masters of Human Nutrition and a lot of functional movement and my official release and all sorts of weird and wonderful things to try and come over some pretty big health issues that I had, and I broke my foot in a motorbike accident. I had chronic pain. I had different movement because of that. That wasn't helping my plight to lose weight, and I was heavily insulin resistant, and I have a very interesting, odd skin condition called hidradenitis suppurativa. I don't even think I say that right. It's one of those things you look at Google and you're like, where do all those letters go? So I can tell you a bit about my health story now, if that sort of fits. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I was basically about 2016, I woke up one morning and realized that even though I'd been in bed since 7 p.m. again, and I'd woken up at 7 a.m., I could barely get out of bed. And I was probably close to 20 kilos overweight. And I just had been with all these gradual, like, little sneaking health issues, as we all kind of get to a certain point in our lives, and you start getting a few things. And I just woke up one morning and thought, this isn't right. And it was a bit of a journey then to find a doctor that would listen to me. I got told a lot of basically crap around, you just must be lying to us about what you're eating and what you're doing. And I'm like, I'm a competitive horse rider. I'm riding horses after work every day of the week, and I barely have energy for that. I'm 26 and I'm falling asleep at my desk at lunchtime and going to bed at 7 p.m. and I can't get out of bed at 7 a.m. Like, there is something seriously wrong with me. And then the final straw was I got a cyst in my groin that was there for well over 12 months, and everyone's saying, oh, it'll just go away. It'll just go away. It'll just go away. And eventually a friend of mine started seeing a new doctor around here locally, and 6 months later got in to see her, and she kind of went, I think you have this skin condition. And I Googled it and was like, one of those things that you just should not Google. Like, the images that came up on Google, I was like, oh, hell no. I hope I do not have that. Oh, gosh, no. And yeah, she's put me on a low carb ketogenic diet and said to get the Real Meal cookbooks. And so, yeah, September 2016, my now current health journey kind of really began. The cookbook turned up in my mailbox and down the rabbit hole we went. So that was lots of fun. And then trying to basically, I guess, stay compliant, for lack of a better word. I don't really like compliance, or I don't know how to describe it, but basically trying to stay in that kind of way of eating out here in Cowra was really kind of hard. So that's where eventually you and I crossed paths as you were a real meal revolution coach on the on the system. So yeah, that's a bit of a long-winded.
Not long-winded at all. So much that I want to delve into. But firstly, you are, I don't know, how did you go to bed at 7 and get up at 7 and do all the things you do, firstly? Because you just seem to be so busy doing so much. It must have just, cut into your world in an incredible way, and how it impacted, your partner as well, and your work, and, amazing, isn't it? At 26 years old, I mean, that is the last thing we should be feeling. And to be told, well, you're lying to us, it's all your fault, basically. It just is mind-boggling, isn't it? But amazing that you actually found someone that recommended low carb where you are, but you had to wait 6 months to get into it.
Yeah, it was really mind-boggling, and she's been my doctor for about 4 or 5 years as we've unraveled a whole heap of different stuff. And she actually moved to Tasmania at the end of last year. I know, I was heartbroken. I was like, actually her and the guy that I do a lot of functional movement, they moved to Tasmania, and I was like, Eric, no, Megan, come back, I miss you. So I've started doing Zooms with Eric, which is great to keep me kind of moving a bit more, because it was but that's the biggest thing. And I think that whole thing around, we're made to feel like it's our fault. Like, the dietary guidelines are just not great, for lack of better words. And then as I'm a smart person. I have like PhD after my name. And then here I was being told, well, I see that you've got a whatever, but no, you must be lying. It's like, did you even think about the impact of that, or what the and then just think, if that's what I'm being told, what are other people being told that don't know what I know, or that aren't going to keep going and keep persisting, and going to go, well, that the doctor said this, so it must be just the way things are. And I just think it's crap. Like, we put so much trust in the medical profession, and GPs are always the first line of dealing with community. And if you can't get support from a GP, where else can you go to get support? Like, so it's become a really big passion of mine, and that's one of the biggest driving forces behind me doing a master's in nutrition. And a lot of the stuff I'm learning, it's like tick a box and move on, because they contradict themselves. When you get down to how nutrition and how our bodies take it, and what actually the biochemistry of what happens to food when we eat it, and then you put that against then, let's talk about how does this person's diet sit with the dietary guidelines and what's recommended, and it just doesn't make sense. And then you've got no support, and then you just, and my brain just kind of almost exploded, because there was something seriously wrong with me. And so that's become one of my biggest things, is that I really want to get into being able to support people through making better choices and better decisions for them. I don't necessarily, there are probably people out there that, keto may not work, but liberal low carb might. And so we're all individuals, and you get a lot of, I think, split. Everybody's got a split. You're either in the keto, or you don't even bother, or it's, and I just think that there's a lot of polarizing, I guess, kind of groups out there. And then, when you go and you take these things like, hey, what do you think about this, to a doctor? And then you get a completely different take on it as well. So that whole thing was just, and I look back now and I just think, like, that was the craziest thing I was ever told. Like, Like I wasn't
Crazy.
going home and drinking 3 liters of soft drink every night. And that's
Yeah.
the way I was treated.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, just
crazy.
I know.
So what I find, what I'd love you to share, because you are, a doctor, you do have a PhD, and I have to admit, I remember when we first connected, and I was a little bit, I saw your information at the bottom. I was a little bit, I hope I'm smart enough. Obviously, we spent, it was great. I think with each session, we sort of opened each other's eyes to little things. You definitely taught me a lot of stuff, because, you have done it. You've done the research. So that's what I'd love you to share. So you met this doctor. This doctor said to you, okay, I want you to try low carb ketogenic. Did you just go, what the? And then go, okay, I have to understand this. How did it sort of progress for you from there?
My little scientist mind. So I got the book. I was like, I didn't really Google much or anything like that, but I thought it was just you buy the cookbook, and the cookbook turns up and you just cook the meals out of the cookbook. And of course, for anybody that's seen the RMR cookbook, there's like the Dr. Noakes section in the front that is the full, like, this is what it is, this is how it works, and it's on a really kind of like scientific, like research level, going into all the hormones and the insulin response of different foods. And so I opened up this cookbook and I was like, where are the meals? But my little scientist brain saw that information and just went, you beauty, this is awesome, let me at it. And I just read it and digested it. And then I was like, and down the rabbit warren I kept going. So someone had been, I think I joined RMR pretty soon after that, like when it was just the online platform and you just did the 12 weeks and it stepped you through the videos. And then I started doing, like, just reading, like I'd find the random books that people were suggesting, like Big Fat Lie and The Art and Science of Low Carb Living, and Why We Get Fat, and all of those books. And my brain just kept going with it and kept running with it. And it was, and I don't really, like, for me, I guess from a research background, it's not something that I consciously think about. Like, I read scientific papers in my evenings just for, kind of shits and giggles, of like how low carb works, or, it'll be something about mindfulness or the science behind yoga, or like, it's so ingrained in me after 7 years of uni that, and I've been working as a meat scientist now for 6 years after uni. So research is my bread and butter. So I don't even think about it anymore. And I just continue, find the next article, find the next thing. And it continues on. So I think that there are, when you go down the rabbit warren, there are some things that are probably way too scientific for the sort of, the general folk, if you're not into it. But my brain just gobbled all that up. And then I found that I actually had a really great way of describing it to other people, and went, oh my God, this is what I should be doing. I should be taking this research and giving it to other people. And so, I'm kind of really stoked actually to be working with the Real Meal team now. So if you hop on their website, there's some great articles. Well, I think they're great because I wrote them. Starting to take some of the science and actually be able to spin it in a way that people get the message, to be able to take, the things that we all know because we're in the circle, to a broader audience, and get more people kind of twigging that maybe there's another way, maybe there's a different way, maybe they can address their fatty liver or their polycystic ovaries or their whatever the case may be in a way that we know works.
Awesome. I love it. So tell me what So you talked about compliance when you, in the beginning, you talked about, you know, that word, lack of a better word, on the wagon, off the wagon, compliance, whatever it is. So for someone who has so much knowledge, you openly, you know, have struggled over the time with this compliance thing. So do you want to talk about, because you're not alone. So obviously in my job, that's pretty much, you know, most of my clients now have a level of knowledge around the science of it, you know, probably not to your level, but enough to know that it's what they want to do, that understand it, they get, you know, that it's optimal, and it, you know, has the potential to really help with health. But what they struggle with is making it, you know, work in their everyday lives and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. So what's your insight around, you know, I guess what you struggled with in the beginning and then what you've seen over the last few years around that? Are you able to share some insight around that?
Sure. So I guess in the early days of low carb, I struggled a lot, basically because I felt so tired that I just couldn't cook. I was really struggling physically to cook, and then I started. My friend that was doing it, I kind of reached out to her and said, "Hey, like I can't do it." And there was a while there that I was actually, she'd just make extra and I was essentially using her as a keto food service and buying it kind of offer. So it was kind of, I guess the whole thing around when you're making the change, and you don't feel great, it's really hard to make I found it really hard to make the habit stick. And then after a long enough period of kind of being, I would say maybe 80% on track, I was then slowly claiming back enough energy, and then other things started derailing me. So I feel like it was a bit of trigger stacking where you get past the first thing and that's no longer a trigger, but then something else comes along and then something else comes along and something else comes along. So after that, I mean, I started traveling a lot with work, and that was part of the reason that I put weight on. And I then would eat well at home and then would go away with work and would feel the pressure of other people, or it was just really hard to find keto foods in the small towns we were going. And then or I'd get really tired or whatever the next sort of trigger was, and I was making terrible choices eating out. And then I started getting past that and was doing better sort of traveling. And then it was like the weight of being the only one, quote unquote, eating healthy. You go to the pub with 10 people and you're the one that says, oh, well, I'll have the salad or I'll have the steak and salad. And people would make the comment and you're already self-conscious about being the only one anyway. And so then, other people's opinions started derailing me. And then you get through that bit and then it becomes a question around your self-worth. And then you
Can I just stop you though before you go into the self-worth? So when you say you get over that bit, how do you get over that bit? Like, what did you see to get over that bit?
Yeah, well, this is where I was about to go, because what I came to realize was that the triggers that I was I thought it was okay, eating out. Let's look at all the videos on how you eat out. Read all the articles about how you eat out when you're on keto. And the underlying triggers was nothing to do about eating out at all. It was my opinions and my values on myself and my self-worth and who I was or who I wanted to be in the eyes of other people. And so the triggers that I thought weren't actually the real causes of what was going on. And that, I think, was maybe one of the biggest revelations. And, you sort of go through it. And I know with the horses, I've had a lot of issues with confidence and a lot of other stuff sort of going on. And I just was simultaneously working through trying to be more confident after falling off and injury. I snapped my left hand off my arm and was like, well, that's like, you know, made me nervous riding. And I was like, again, that's the issue. I've just had this traumatic fall and I'm just gonna, you know. And then I realized that actually a lot of the unconscious beliefs that I had about myself were crossing over into all areas of my life. And if I didn't deal with the underlying values and worth that I held myself to, and the other, you know, personas, and there's all different models of stuff, but, you know, I was a perfectionist. So I'd eat like one thing that I probably shouldn't have eaten, and then I'd, you know, go, oh, well, that's it. Like, I've ruined everything. And there'd be a month of just crappy eating right there. And then, you know, I'd fold when somebody would say, you know, oh, you're doing, you know, you're eating the healthy thing. And I'd be like, oh, no, and eat a plate of chips. Like, so working through all the other stuff was probably the biggest change. And like, that's taken years. That's the bulk of my low carb journey. Like, the knowing what to eat was like, woohoo, first 6 months done. Tick that box. Yep. Eat meat, veg, low carb veg, and a bit of fat. Like, it's not rocket science, and we try and make it so hard. But the bit that requires the actual work is okay, you know, I just ate that. That's cool. No harm, no foul. Back on track. No guilt, no shame, none of the stuff that we laden ourselves with. And I think at some point I came across the quote of, it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility. And I think that it's our responsibility to actually be better towards ourselves and be more self-compassionate and get off this mentality of, you know, like the diet mentality. I'm just going to restrict my carbs and, you know, I'll lose weight. And sure, you lose weight, but then, you know, the comments or whatever your trigger is then basically undoes what you've just done if you don't deal with what's really going on underneath.
Oh, I'm feeling myself get a bit emotional because that's just it. I mean, it is the work I do, and it was, you know, you and quite a few others that really helped me to see a lot of this in myself and in my coaching, because you're right. I mean, the what to eat is the easy stuff. It is, you know, it really doesn't take that long to get around it. You might have to learn to cook a bit. You might have to adjust your shopping, but, you know, that sort of stuff is like learning to drive a car. You know, it's pretty set out. You can learn how to do it. But the other stuff, and what I'm sort of hearing from you, is that we tend to look outside of ourselves for the answers to those things, like we do when it comes to learning how to drive a car or something like that. But really what we need to do is look to within, and, you know, that can be very confronting and a little bit scary and definitely not easy, but the benefits and the freedoms that come when we can do that, you know, I mean, are enormous. And, you know, it's not like, you know, I think what our mind does too is we want to get to a place where we're free of ever feeling that. And I don't think that's ever possible. Is that something that you see, Steph? It's you know, there's no destination to kind of get to.
Yeah, and I think that that's probably been one of the biggest things. I certainly went through probably about a 6-month feeling like I couldn't deal with the feelings. Like I'd opened the box and all of the things had come out. I dug through my past and found all the things that were making me kind of like, oh, I want to fix myself. I've got to fix myself. I don't want to feel like this anymore. I've just got to, you know, I don't want to feel horrible anymore. I don't want to feel frustrated anymore. I don't want to feel. And it was like, I remember saying to the psychologist at one point, like, I don't, and she sort of said like, oh, you know, this is always going to be a bit of a trigger for you. And I was like, I don't want to feel the trigger. Like, no, you're wrong. Fix it. Tell me how to fix it. And I got so frustrated and angry at it. And I was just like, I just want you to fix my head so I don't feel like this. This is not fair. This is not how people should feel. And then eventually I got to the point where I was like, oh, wait, that's human. That's being human. You know, if you don't feel the bad stuff, like if you don't get upset when a pet dies or a family member dies, then it's like, so not great. And those things will always happen. That's the reality of life. But, you know, it's and it's just, it's how you deal with it, and what you say, and how how you respond in those moments, and how you, I think, talk to yourself, and where your community is and where your support is. We've all become a bit of a lone wolf in this world, despite having things like social media where we feel more connected in theory, because look, I've got 58 friends that have just liked my photo. But in reality, you know, we don't share the humanness of our existence anymore, because nobody wants to feel the struggle. Nobody, you know, you see it all the time with this fake positivity movement, like, oh, that's really sad that, you know, you just put your dog of 20 years down. Oh, well, just go to the shelter and rescue another. Like, it's all good, because people don't want to have those, they don't know how to have those hard conversations anymore. So then we feel more and more isolated. And I think that one of the biggest things that's actually helped me is to actually connect with people that are on this path with me, that, like, you know, such as yourself and Jono Entertainment, Diet Doctor, and all sorts of weird, wonderful places that I've had to look to find community and find people that will share in those struggles. Like, hey guys, it really sucks today. I really just want to eat the friggin' donut. Like, I'm so sad because my whatever happened, or, you know, I'm going through this really crappy time at work. It's really stressful. I just want to eat everything in sight. And reaching out in those moments, and knowing that there are people going like, hey, Steph, I can't fix it, but I'm here with you, you know?
Yeah.
And that's been such a powerful, powerful thing. And we just don't look for that anymore, because we're told by so many things in so many different places that, you know, you just got to think positive, or you've just got to like chip in, things will get better. And yeah, they will, but it's like, it's what's real for you in that moment. And
not everything has a silver lining. Like, we like to silver lining everything. And, you know, when you talked about too, one of your triggers of what was really hard for you was other people's reactions. You know, I think one of the biggest things I teach is that, you know, people react how it's about them, you know, like it's so easy to think it's about us and take it personally, but again, it's not. It is about them. So often if people, you know, that positivity, put a silver lining on it, it is because they're afraid to feel the realness of it and the rawness. And it is that fear. So no, I don't want to feel that. So I'm going to, you know, just put something on it so I don't have to feel that. And I don't want you to feel it because it's uncomfortable for me. And that's what people experience when they're sitting in a room with friends, and no, they say no to the dessert, and someone says, well, why aren't you eating dessert? What's wrong with you? You know, well, this is my choice. How you react to it is about you. But you have to, I didn't know that either till, you know, I was sort of, someone pointed that out to me. But I think it does give you a lot more perspective on and understanding on how people behave. And yeah, compassion for yourself, fundamentally. You know, why is that so hard for us sometimes?
And I think too, there's we forget that our thoughts and our experiences aren't actually what's going on. It's our perception of what's going on. So there's that whole like rabbit warren to go down as well. So when you are talking to somebody at a dinner party, or, you know, my favorite is everything in moderation. Like everything, including the things that have just made me like almost diabetic, but you want me to have them in moderation? Like, and I just get like a bit of an eye twitch, and then I'm like, wait, that's not them. Like, that's their perception of me and my perception. And then my mind kind of goes down this like matrix, like, and then by the time I'm contemplating the universe on a cellular level, what they've just said doesn't matter anymore. But that's because people too, we have an image of ourselves that we put out there. And when I talk to you, my brain and my emotional kind of feeling body says, this is Tracy, this is who she is, this is how she responds. So when we change that, and we change, you know, we break basically social trust, because we say, you know, you see it a fair bit I think, with people that are usually the life of the party or the life of the dinner party, and, they usually go for, say, a second serve of dessert, and suddenly they're saying, well, no, no dessert for me, thank you. And it's like you break that social trust because people expect you to behave in a certain way. And it's not a conscious thing that we do. And so, then people are bound to push back because you've just basically said the way you see me is not actually as I am anymore. And then you break that level of trust, which is upsetting, and people don't even realize that they're doing it or that they've projected that onto somebody else. And so, to view our interactions with people when we are trying to make changes on a much more compassionate way, to say like, oh, I'm trying this new thing, rather than arcing up, or rather than internally going like, fuck you, you just want me to eat the like dessert, don't you? Like, you want to see me fat. Like, I've had all of those thoughts. I've and then I started thinking like, oh, actually, wow, that's just because of the way that I used to be. And then you can start to mold things a little differently, and your perception changes with not only yourself, because then, if you're viewing, this is the rabbit warren I went down the other day. It's this whole thing of treat others how you would treat yourself, but treat yourself how you would treat others. Because if you were, in that situation and someone said, look, I'm just trying to really lose weight, you wouldn't say, well, how dare you do that? Eat the frigging cake or I'll punch you one. You go, oh, what's going on? Like, is your health okay? Is everything okay? But we treat others like way better than we treat ourselves, or we treat ourselves way better than we treat others. And it's like it kind of has to go both ways. So I'm so on the compassion journey, like just showing, and it just takes one thing, and then you respond differently, and then they respond differently, and then suddenly the world is a heaps better place of all these little tiny little moments.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that we're all the same. It's funny, we think that we're very unique, but actually we all work in the same way. And I think, having awareness. So, you've talked about some amazing insights and stuff like that, and it's all changeable. That's the beauty of how we work. And I think it just starts with becoming more aware. So a lot of what we do is just habitual. We just react instead of saying, okay, hang on a minute. Is there another alternative here? Do I need to take what that person says to me personally? Can I see that it is about them? Like, there's so much, again, but we have to see it. We have to create that space to allow for a different reaction, because otherwise we're just, I don't know if I ever said this to you, but I say this a lot. It's like our habitual thinking. It's like this short lead, that we're on. We're kind of led around it in our life by it, unless we say we can loosen that a little bit and create space for something new to come in. And, that's pretty much all I do now is help people to see that. So it's not, I don't ever say to anyone, and I would never have said it to you, this is the way to do it. This is the way to eat. This is what, but if you want to see something new, let's look at how we do that. Let's look about how we bring about change.
Yeah. And I think that the first step is awareness. So I am frustrated. Right. Mm-hmm. And then the second step is saying, I feel frustrated. So you're identifying that emotion is there. And then it's like, I notice that I feel frustration. And then you're adding like that space. And then it's like, I notice that I feel frustrated when, and then you're like, then in that moment, you have the ability, or I notice I feel frustrated, because you have the ability to then take that situation and rework, because there's space created. And that in itself was like a massive revelation for me. I notice when I feel frustrated, I notice that in these moments I feel frustrated. How do I come at that moment differently? And then over time, you get to where you can actually do that in the moment instead of afterwards in that reflect. And that is so powerful, so powerful. Because a lot of the things, I think, if we don't give ourselves the opportunity to come at things differently, or to experiment, or to play and be curious. And, you know, I mean, one bad meal won't kill you, unless it's poison, of course. But we laden ourselves with so much guilt and shame, and then we don't notice that we're doing that. And then we expect ourselves to be able to just keep going despite all the horrible things that we say to ourselves around that. And it's just, you know, if you have the ability to actually step out from a situation, and be able to assess, you know, you're not going to get it right 100% of the time, but even, you know,
No
2
one
out of
does.
10 times is way better than nothing.
That's
And
right.
yeah, so I just think, and it's really interesting because I've been down this rabbit warren with the horses massively. Like, what I thought was a broken wrist traumatic fall has turned into like the biggest mind-boggling confidence, like, and it's just, and then I sat down and I thought about it, and I thought, why am I treating my health differently? Like, why am I on the rabbit warren of like, eat the right things and go to the gym? Because we're not single entities, and there is no separation between who we are when we sit down to eat and who we are when we're at work, or, you know, when we're with our family. And we generally tend to kind of like I put myself in a box, like, this is the Steph at work, and this is the Steph at home, and this is the Steph that rides horses, and I'm just going to tap into that box, but that box is different to that box. And then I realized that, yeah, all these things that I've been kind of going down with mindfulness and all sorts of, you know, things, I was like, wait, actually, why aren't I doing that over here in this box? And why aren't I being more self-compassionate at work? Like, why am I getting into the, like, oh my gosh, you haven't done everything perfectly? And then all of a sudden I just like kind of busted myself out from all of these boxes that I just put myself in. And there was just this massive change. And all of a sudden my 4 kilos I've been losing and gaining for the last like 4 years is suddenly gone, like, woo, gone, you know. And it was just, and part of that process was me reaching out and being parts of communities that support that thinking. That, you know, I'm not expecting everybody around me to be able to say at work, you know, now I see you're getting frustrated, let's take a moment out here. Like, you know, or I see that you're not compassionate, let's like take a moment out here. Like, it's kind of this thing where we do things so secularly, and it's just, but you got to find the right people in the right places to support you on that path. But we all have it, you know. You're right, it's such, you say a lot that it's an innate thing. We've got to get back into our bodies and back into our innate, you know, and our intuition, and yeah, because we've all got it. We've all got this ability. I'm not special. Like, I probably, as you know, had the biggest monkey mind known to man. My mind works at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and it's always thinking about something. Always.
Yeah, I so remember that just came back to me when you were talking about that, how you used to do that. And, you know, we talk about the stuff that you had seen and with the horses and stuff. And I remember, I don't know if I ever said it, but I'm like, but that's it. You've just said it. You can see it. And isn't it interesting though, how we put ourselves in little boxes? And, you know, we could say that with anything. I hear it all the time. Oh, I can't do that, I'm an introvert. Or I can't do that, I'm this type of a person. Well, you know, I just love kind of saying, well, how do you know that? You know, like, again, we create in the guise of comfort. We create limitations around who and what we are and what we can do. And yes, smashing all of that is where change is. And one of the other things I wanted to say when you were talking about, you know, feelings and stuff, and, you know, a huge insight that I've had is around separating that too, and saying, okay, well, I am experiencing frustrated feelings, or I'm experiencing these feelings, but they're not me, you know, that, you know, I am actually separate from that, you know. And again, like you said, starting to separate yourself from those feelings helps you to see new ones as well, and to let them pass and see what else comes up. And have you read because this came after we kind of stopped working together, regularly. But have you read The Untethered Soul?
No, I haven't. I'm just going to move.
Oh.
The cat's spinning on every Zoom meeting. Like, you don't need to be here for this one. Let's keep moving. No, funny. I haven't. I've recently gone down the rabbit warren of polyvagal theory, actually, because there's another thing I want to layer in here, which is that we think about how there's a few ways that we think about it, and part of it is creating space. So if you think about our emotions are a cup where you have two ways you can go about it, which is either tipping some out of the cup or getting a bigger cup. And a lot of what we talk about with mindfulness and things like this is actually tipping stuff out of the cup. So the other way is actually increasing the cup size. And I think that modern life has left us all with a smaller cup. Our ability to actually contain and hold emotions is so dramatically different because, of all the ins and outs of being cut off from communities and cut off from connection. And, we're existing in this low level grade of chronic stress, and that takes a toll on our bodies, not just, I guess, emotionally, but also physically when you think about cortisol and all those different like stress hormones. So it's become pretty clear to me personally in the last 6 months that a lot of the stuff that I was doing that we were, sort of talking about with the mindfulness and being able to detach yourself from things and things like that, I was actually really struggling with because I was constantly in basically a fight, flight, freeze response. So it's really hard when you're in that to actually be able to detach yourself or to see something differently. And my fabulous friend Jane Pike, who's very horse riding based, went down this rabbit warren, and I'm so happy to be joining her down this rabbit warren because I just realized, and on a cellular level, my body was stressed, not just because of the stuff I was eating. We talk about the inflammatory nature of sugar and carbs, but also because of my injuries. So I had a lot of issues with chronic pain, and I ended up in a biopsychosocial chronic pain management program, which was run at our local district. And I was like, it was the inkling of the start of something else, because they talked a lot about all aspects of our life. And the aim was to basically make a bigger cup. So we need to have the ability to tip out the emotion when it's too much, but we also need to have the capacity to hold those big emotions. So if we're chatting and you say, look, I'm really upset, my son just died, I can be there with you in that moment without, feeling the need. And it goes back to what we were sort of saying before, where people can't hold that because they can't hold what they've got themselves. So there's this thing where I'm like, I see, and I'd like to see it sort of just, I guess, incorporated into more aspects of life, because it's when the cup overflows, that's when we get into those habits of I've got to have the bottle of wine, I've got to eat the donuts, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I can't be with this. So if we're just working on the tipping the stuff out to keep it under that threshold so that we can contain ourselves, I feel like that's only 50% of the puzzle.
Have you got a book to recommend to me?
I'm gonna have to. I don't have one. Yeah, I would. Jane would probably shoot me, but I'm like, I would recommend everybody just sign up to the Joyride Confident Rider program, because it just so extends. The stuff that we do with the horses just so extends beyond, and that's what I mean about smashing those boxes. Horse riding Steph is like this amazing Steph, because she has all these insane things that we're doing with the horses, like discussing polyvagal theory and getting into, eye movements and things and being able to calm yourself down. And I'm just like, weight loss Steph is over there cheering, going, this is amazing, because now when you feel anxious, you don't have to eat the biscuits. You can just, you know, do this movement thing and you feel yourself come back down. And I'm like, how do we take this to the people? like never mind the horse talk, like just everybody just get on the bandwagon, because it's just, it blows your mind. But then, you know, I get really upset now, and I have to calm myself down when I see these like 12-week programs. Sign up and we'll give you the 3 exercises and the meal plan and you'll lose 20 kilos. And it's just like, I want to, and I'm like, that's the problem with the world. Like that in its essence is the problem with the world, because we're all just running around, low level stress, eating the wrong thing, being horrible to ourselves, horrible to other people. And then we just expect ourselves to be able to wake up one morning and go, you know what? I'm going to lose that extra weight. And I'm like,
yeah.
And that's why I want to, this is exactly why I want to support people doing this, because there's so many pieces to the puzzle. And you know, there's a if you've got no community, there's programs out there, there's places you can go to get community. If you are running around in a corporate job and you're just constantly stressed and you just need to there are things that you can do, but the puzzle is so individual for all of us. And it's taken me 4 years to work out which are the puzzle pieces that I need. And then you put that bit of the puzzle together and you go, oh, actually, now this is the thing that's kind of holding me back. And it is a real journey and a real process. But I just think it's just so critical to have the right tools in your toolbox.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and it's so individual. And then what you end up with is an incredibly beautiful puzzle that is you, and it is your journey. And there isn't, you know, you touched on it before too, you know, the dogma, the nuances, the black and white thinking, you know, it's so what don't stand for any of that. And I think that we have to move away from that, because there is no such thing as black and white when it comes to this. There just isn't. So yeah, and you know, it does start with us. It does start with the individual. It really does. You know, if we want to, you know, it's so cliche, but if we want to see change, we have to start with ourselves. And you know, if we look there, it'll impact exactly what you said, how we respond when others say things to us, how we show up. It just can't not change things like that, and the ripple effect of that is enormous. So there's an opportunity for you, Steph, to create this.
I'm on the way. So that was why that was partially why I've done the Masters of Nutrition, because and horse riding too. Like there's a lot going on in that world, because it is such, like, it's a sport. And there's lots of other sports out there, but there's very few, I think, sports that have basically a lot of people that are struggling with weight, and riding horses are so transformative in nature. And it really gave me the opportunity to say, well, I want to be the best for my horse. So how do I do that? Well, I've got to lose weight, because it's like, you know, I can't slump around on his back if I'm 20 kilos overweight when he's a tiny little pony. And then I worked out that horses are my biggest why. And that's a pretty big thing. You know, we underestimate the power of the why. And I have recently, you know, I mean, I was a bit of a victim of nameless bullying on social media as a horse rider and as a horse riding coach, because I'm quite short, but I do ride ponies. And the places that, you know, being compassionate, like, it shouldn't be exclusive. And yet we kind of do this thing where on social media, you know, and you see it all the time in the keto world too, where if you're not doing it my way, well, you're wrong. And I'm going to make assumptions about how you're doing it in the first place, but you're wrong. And I just think, like, and it's this whole thing for me now around at the moment about adults riding ponies, because it is a welfare issue if you've got, you know, somebody that is extremely big, but it's how you have that conversation. And it's not being done. Our conversation about our weight and our health in general is not being done in a compassionate way, but it does. It starts with us. And heaven forbid I suggested this, that we should, you know, treat each other nicely on a post on Facebook that was discussing rider weight. And as a, you know, because you've got to consider the horse. And I love my horses. I would never do anything to hurt them. But I know within myself that it wasn't by design that I woke up 20 kilos overweight. You know, I was eating a healthy diet. I was eating a standard diet. Like, I was eating what they were telling me to. I wasn't eating huge amounts of what they were telling me to either. And it was gut wrenching, heartbreaking, like horrible, because I thought I was doing the right thing. And I thought I was doing the right thing by my horses, trying to get fit and do this and do that. And it just wasn't working for me. And it's just like everybody assumes that it's so easy to lose weight. And I'm like, if it's so easy, then why do we have an obesity epidemic? Like, why? Because if I, with a PhD, can't figure out how to lose weight, then like it just, so that's very quickly becoming my passion, is helping. And I want to support people, particularly riders, because there's a lot of judgment. Like, we literally pay people to judge us. Like, I don't know who else does that. Like, you know, soccer, you put the ball in the goal, you win the game, like, end. But we literally pay people to judge us. And it's just become this whole big thing around, and it breaks my heart, the discussions that are being had, because there is no support. There is no support. And there's keyboard warriors on Facebook that will, you know, say, I don't do this, or I don't do that, or we should do this as an industry, with no consideration that there's probably a lot of people who are working their bums off to ride that horse that they love and to be the weight that they need to be to ride that horse. But they're being given shit advice, like terrible advice on how to do that, and probably don't have the support of their doctors, because if I can't get the support of my doctor, how is, like, it's such a big picture thing, and we drill down in these silos of thought, and then we bash anybody over the head that suggests there may be another way of doing it. So yeah, that's become my epic thing. And I dare say that over the next couple of years, I don't know how to meld it together. That's my biggest thing, is like, I've got all these gems floating around outside me, and I don't know how to draw it together in a way that I can kind of give it to people, or, you know, support people that want to go down this path, because I'm here. Like, I dead set I'm here. And there are some things, like I'm joining the Real Meal crew as a coach for their 12-week hero program. I hope I got the wording right. Jono and Sam will tell me later if I haven't. Because it's that creation of a community that really, you know, and doing it in a compassionate, empathetic way. That's you know, be the change you want to see in the world. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm trying to do. That's where I'm going. I'm like, if somebody out there can tell me how do I package all this amazingness that I have in my head, then yeah. So because if I can't get it, then how do other people that don't know where to look, how do they get it? Where do they get it? So yeah,
it's true,
but that's,
you know,
that's probably a big part of your job though too, Tracy, is people coming to you and saying, like, I can't make, where are the pieces? Why can't I do this? Why can't I get this to work for me?
Yeah. You know, and packaging all the little bits is a challenge. And, you know, I just don't think there's one answer for that either. I think it's just the journey. You'll see new things as you take new steps, and as you look in different places, things will occur to you. And, you know, look where you are now. I'd love you to share what you do with Real Meal. I know you've touched on it with the Real Meal Revolution and the Diet Doctor, but maybe just to wrap it up, you know, what are some of the stuff that you do there? And then, of course, you know, how can people contact you? Because I'm sure there'll be people listening that will want to, you know, connect with you, darling.
Yeah. So at the moment, I'm kind of, I'll go back. So with Real Meal Revolution, at the moment working with them in training to be a coach in the Hero program. So that's a 12-week program with daily check-ins, with each other, and it's a very process orientated kind of thing. So I was a participant in that myself and got so much value out of it that I think I pretty well begged Jono to put me on the crew a bit. So yeah, it's a great thing. You sort of set up, this is my goal, this is what I want to achieve, and then we sort of support people through the actual processes that they need to make to get there. And then every fortnight, of the 12 weeks, you catch up with everybody in your group, and you go through a bit of, it's not advice giving, which is the best thing I think that they've ever done. It's actually sharing experiences and helping each other through creating the habit changes that you sort of need to be able to make a sustainable low carb lifestyle. So that's that one. And I think over time, hopefully, I'll be a health coach with them in their program. So it's just, I'm going through training with them for that now, and I'm absolutely loving it. But yeah, it's a bit of a process. So that's loads of fun. And then I feel really lucky. I'm totally blessed that I also get to do some work with Diet Doctor, because of course Real Meal and Diet Doctor are the two big hitting ones. And like many people, I guess I'm on both platforms, and I love them both equally for different reasons.
Well, you're lucky, but you did make that happen, darling. You know that.
I'm like, oh no, it was all luck. Yeah, I sit here and do nothing. I don't do anything, and I just read fun things.
It all lands to you.
Yeah, so Diet Doctor is part of their subscription. Not only you get all their great articles and their meal plans and their recipes, but you also get access to a Facebook support group. So with the Diet Doctor, everyone's spread globally, and I'm a moderator. I'm like an Australian moderator. So when people hop on and they say, oh, I'm out the back of Burke and I don't know where to get psyllium husk from, I can hop on and say, jump on this online store, or I use this product. And again, it just really speaks to being able to provide support to people. And, people hop on there and go, I'm day 3 and I'm really struggling, and you get a chance to, write them a really nice kind of comment and lift people up again, and help people stay on track and wade through the crap that's turning up. Even in the keto world, the low carb world, not everything is scientifically proven and backed. Anybody with an Instagram account these days can start spruiking stuff. So it's really about being able to provide some support and credibility. So yeah, totally loving that, loving the work with Diet Doctor team as well. And we get on, calls every so often with their medical team and the nutritionists, and, we get to talk about things that are issues or things that people are finding with, so that we can better support people on their journey. So that's been loads of fun there too. So yeah, if you're on Diet Doctor or Real Meal, shout out, because I'd love to catch up with people. I'm a people person. Like, talk to me.
Really?
Everybody talk to me. Yeah, awesome. As for me personally, it's just me on Facebook, Steph Fowler, at the moment. Or you can, I'm on the path of creating something. I don't know what it looks like. And for the horse riders out there, I do have a website and a Facebook page called The Equestrian, which I'm thinking is what it's going to be. So hopefully over time I'll be able to meld that into some form of a kind of weight loss, fitness, health, well-being, something, whatever form that takes, specifically aimed at horse riders, and being able to, help people get the right advice, but also do things with themselves and others, and in a bit more compassionate way. So yeah, definitely reach out, and hopefully in a little while, Tracy, we can do another one, and I'll be able to jump on and say, everybody go to my fabulous website thing, virtual, whatever. And yeah, so
sounds amazing. It will. Can't wait to watch it evolve. So, you're stuck with me now, so I'll be watching. Now, last question, just to finish it off, is one I love to ask my guests is, what would you say to your 20-year-old self?
Girl, hang in there. You're on the path. Just hang in there. Keep going. You got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
I think
Well,
thanks.
that's great.
Jess.
It's been excellent to talk to you, and I know there's going to be so many people that are going to resonate with what you've shared and the insights you've had and the journey that you're on, and we're all on. Yeah, but I think it's been fantastic, and I can't thank you enough for chatting with me today. Thanks, Steph.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.